Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. Okay, today I'm going to do another discussion video. I love doing discussion videos on this channel that have to do with books and being a reader and all that kind of stuff. And this is not an original idea. I saw a video that Cam over at Wolf Shop Publishing, he's one of my favorite booktubers. What's up, Bootsy? He did this video. I will link his video below because I think he did a phenomenal job discussing this and all the points that go into it. And I don't know that I'll address every point, but I just kind of, as a reader and as an author, I wanted to talk about this whole idea of Goodreads. And is Goodreads for readers or is it for authors? Does it matter even? And I think it's an important conversation to be having within the booktube community, within the bookstagram community, and within just the reading community. Book bloggers, on and on and on. Book buyers, book reviewers that just review on Goodreads. Because I'm not sure many people are aware of this, but there are a lot of people that build up their Goodreads accounts and just review books on Goodreads. And a lot of those people I follow because I want to see what their reviews are. So apparently what happened was some author was, I don't know, very upset about the fact that, you know, the star rating that was going on with Goodreads and all this kind of stuff. And he or she supposedly started some petition saying that, you know, you shouldn't be able to leave a star rating unless you've read the book. I think that goes without saying. I feel like a lot of this is just common sense. And that you shouldn't be able to review a book unless you've read the book and on and on and on. And, you know, a lot of these issues Cam discussed in his video, and he talked about there's no, like, way to police this. To, you know, like, on Amazon, I think, you cannot leave a review unless you've bought a book from Amazon. I'm almost sure of that. I could be wrong. But today, most people review books, you know, via Goodreads. That's how most of us review our books. And for me, as a booktuber, when I'm done with a book, I always give it a star rating, and then I go in there and I say my full review will be up on my channel. That's what I say now on there. So I don't put a review on there. I may say something like, this book really sucked, or this book is amazing, or something. So if you come to it and you see that I gave it 5 stars, or if I gave it 2 stars, you'll understand why. But I don't, like, go necessarily by the star rating. As a reader, I will say this. I often go in and look at what the star overall rating is on a book, but it never deters me from wanting to read a book, all right? So the discussion starts with the idea that there are several authors out there, and I knew this long before I ever got on YouTube, that there are several authors out there that every time they get a negative review on their, like, book, that they then directly message that person, which feels a little intrusive to me, honestly. They message that person and will say things like, did you not understand this, or did you not understand that? And what's funny to me about this, right, is that this has to be, I have to believe that these are smaller authors, that these are not authors, you know, of, like, the Angie Thomases or the John Greens or the David Baldaccis or, you know, somebody like that, because do they really have that much time to chase down every negative review? Now, this would be my advice to the author that feels the need and the necessity to chase down each review and send that person a message, okay? First of all, I would say, why are you so butthurt? Do you think your book is the greatest one on the face of the earth? Number one, because obviously this person felt like your book was shit. That's why they gave it a negative review. See it for what it is, right? Number two, my advice to that person would be, if it's not a nasty review, take it as constructive criticism. None of us out there are the greatest authors, the greatest writers in the world, okay? Like, we all could use a little help. And I try to look at it, you know, as back in the day of being in creative writing classes when I was in college, that, you know, we would write, this is what my creative writing class was like. Every creative writing class I took, and I took a class for 4 years. So, you know, to a semester, I took 8 creative writing classes, I think, or maybe it was 6. I did it for 3 years. I don't know. But I took a lot because that was where my focus was as an English major. And, you know, like, we would have to write a short story that was between 12 and 15 pages. We had to make copies for everybody in the class, and then we handed them out. Everybody would read them, and then the next week they would critique them. And the whole idea was to be open to critique. And there were people that were ruthless in my class. So it would just be like, this idea doesn't work at all. This is total crap. I don't know where you got this idea, blah, 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 whatever, right? But, you know, I think overall, it just made me a better author, a better writer, which, you know, it just made me more objective of my writing. And I have 1 book out and 2 books coming out, and you know, all of them could use work. And one of the reasons why writers get beta readers is because beta readers read your work as you're going, and they say, oh, this isn't working, or this isn't working, or yes, I love this, you should do this, or I like this character, you should expand upon this, the ending doesn't work, yes, the ending is fantastic, on and on and on. Had you ever thought about it this way, whatever. That's why a lot of writers get beta readers. One of the phenomenal things about Goodreads is that we have access as writers and authors to reviews from tons of people out there, right? Not just mom and dad and our husbands and wives who are giving us 5-star ratings and they're completely biased, okay? So, you know, with that train of thought, if people shouldn't be giving reviews on books on Goodreads, then neither should our close family members and friends and people that we're friends with on BookTube and people that we're friends with on BookBlog. Like, we shouldn't be giving reviews because we're gonna give completely biased reviews, right? And I can tell you, as a matter of fact, I know this. My husband gave my book 5 stars and hadn't even read it yet. I know that as a fact, okay? So if you went and bought my book based on a rating on Goodreads because my husband was one factor into that for 5 stars, I apologize. But you know, like, let's just be for real. I will say this, and this is what drives me crazy, you know, and this is kind of me contradicting what I just said, but it is my husband. I would have been very upset with him if he had given me 2 stars. So, you know, even if he had read the book, he was going to still give me 5 stars, right? But one thing that does bother me is like bigger, you know, authors out there, and I noticed this really with like Joey Graceffa's book, and I mentioned it in a video, that before the book was even out, people were rating it 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, and what they were saying was, okay, that I already know I'm going to love this book. You know, I love everything that Joey does. I already know that I'm going to love this book. Well, how do you know that? How do you know you're going to love a book before you've even read it? So I don't get all up in arms about this star rating stuff because I try to be, I don't know, more of a thoughtful reader. Like, if I'm going to go read a book, I do more research than just one review on a Goodreads, you know, review. I go through a lot of the reviews and I try to see what people say. And I think that most of us that have common sense can tell from reading a review if it's like somebody that was just disgusted with the topic, they were disgusted with the author and they just couldn't stand him to begin with, or if they were giving an objective review. I think most of us can tell that. Don't you think? Like, this isn't brain science. So then why the author needs to chase down that person and send them a direct message is total bullshit, okay? That should never happen. Can you imagine back in the day, like Harper Lee calling somebody up and being like, so you didn't like Dill? Oh, you didn't like Scout either? Well, fuck you, you didn't get it. I mean, seriously? I mean, come on now, right? J.D. Salinger sitting up in his house, being a recluse, never going anywhere. Yeah, this part of this review that you talked about Holden Caulfield, you didn't like his hat. Well, what hat would you have liked? I mean, you know, come on, like, let's be for real. When you are a creative person and you put creative work out there into the world, whether it's a book, whether it's a short story, whether it's a painting, whether it's a movie, whether it's a YouTube video, whatever you put out there in the world, it's kind of like giving birth a little bit. You do the best you can, and then you let it go into the world when they grow up and they become mature, right? And you can't take ownership over that forever. You have to let it go, and then, you know, what society makes of it, they're going to make of it. I have sat in so many classes, you know, where we dissect books and later thought to myself, you know, like, okay, it's like, this is an interesting thing if you didn't know about this. Did you know that the movie The Wizard of Oz, some people say is symbolic of the coming out process, and that when it turns from black and white to color in the movie was the way of showing what happens when people come out, which is why Judy Garland was supposedly such a gay icon at times too? Like, people can put symbols and symbology into anything that is out there that does not make it true, right? So once you put a creative piece out there into the world, it's kind of like up to society and readers and art lovers and movie lovers to make of it what they're going to, right? That's why a lot of times for the Oscars and the Golden Globes, you know, some movie that you've never heard of before. I remember the year that Boys Don't Cry came out with Hilary Swank. Nobody had heard of this movie. and it just swiped the awards. You guys remember that? Everybody was talking about this movie because it was such an important movie to be out at that time. But who knew that when this small movie was going to come out, that it was going to do such powerful things, okay? Or let's take it in a different direction. Let's talk about the original Halloween movie with Jamie Lee Curtis, which she's making a reappearance in 2018 on Halloween. The next one's coming out. Who knew on this low-budget movie, okay, made in Pasadena, California, with palm trees in the background, which they said was Haddonfield, Illinois, who knew that this movie would be one of the most iconic horror movie franchises ever, right? So you don't know when what you're doing and you're putting it out there in the world, the reception it's going to get back. So instead of just fighting it all, allow it to go where it's supposed to go. Sometimes those bad reviews might help you as an author. One other piece of advice as a booktuber is, if you are an author and you get known as being somebody that gets really butthurt over other people giving you negative reviews or bad star ratings and whatever, and people know that's who you are, nobody's going to review your book anymore. Nobody's going to talk about you. Nobody's going to be interested in the work that you're putting out there. And quite frankly, and I'm not saying this to be arrogant of the booktube community, but the booktube community, the bookstagram community, and the book bloggers are really the ones that are dictating what books are getting read. And if you don't think that's true, you need to take a closer look, okay? Because it's the truth. And when we talk about books, or when bigger YouTubers talk about books, or you see a celebrity, I remember like 6 months ago, I had wanted to read the book The Knicks, and I saw that Andy Cohen was reading it. They showed a picture in like Lifestyle magazine, and he was reading it. He had it like at an airport, and he was holding it, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I want to read that book, right? Well, that's pop culture. That's called marketing. That's how people find out what books they want to read, and then more people read it, they get good reviews, or they get talked about, and then they end up #1 on the bestseller list, like The Woman in the Window, which I just reviewed yesterday. #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, because everybody's talking about it. Booktube, Bookstagram, and book bloggers are a really good way to get your books noticed positively. You might not want to piss off the bookish community. I'm just saying, okay? That being said, I feel like Goodreads is for everybody. I feel like it's for authors. I feel like it's for, readers. I feel like it's for booktubers, bookstagrammers, everybody. I feel like it's for readers just in general. I love Goodreads, and I don't want it to be turned into this ugly thing that people don't want to participate in anymore because authors are getting upset about this and whatever, okay? If you're pissed off because you got a bad review on your book, you need to take a look at what somebody said, because those things that are closest to the truth are usually the ones that piss us off the most. So if you're looking at this review and somebody said something about something didn't work, somewhere in your head you're probably thinking, did it? And if you totally don't believe that it didn't work, then just pass it off as a shitty review and move on. Not everything that everybody says is facts. And facts aren't feelings, and feelings aren't facts. So don't get all upset about that. Everybody's going to get a negative review on their book. Everybody is, okay? Any book that you go out there and read, there is going to be a negative review. I could not believe, like when I talked about The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas, which just, I love that book, or The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead, which won the Pulitzer last year, it's like, there were a lot of people that gave it really negative reviews. And, okay, that's their opinion. That's their right from reading the book and saying, this is how I felt about this book. This is how it impacted me or didn't impact me. This is what I thought worked or didn't work, right? But I don't think that we need to get into this fight about, is Goodreads for authors or is it for readers or whatever. It's for all of us. It's for the bookish community. Goodreads is for the bookish community. And what I would really like is for authors to be more accessible to readers out there instead of being more distant and mysterious. I would like them to do more interviews where they talk about their works, One of my favorite booktubers ever of life is Tiernan, the booktuber, and he has done a lot of interviews on his channel when he's gone to like BEA and BookCon and things like that of like booktubers that I love, like David Levithan. And it's very interesting to hear somebody's creative process. So if you're an author out there and you're getting very upset about these reviews, offer to do an interview with somebody. Contact a booktuber or a bookstagrammer or a book blogger and say, hey, I'd love to do an interview with you and maybe explain why I wrote it this way, Take it as a learning experience instead of this negative thing. But to pull, the whole reading bookish community apart over something like this is really, really sad. And we're not going to get away from the star ratings. We just aren't, okay? And I don't love the star ratings either. I think, for me, I think it would be much better if we didn't give it a star rating and we gave it a percentage rank. But here's the thing. If you dislike somebody, you're going to give them a 0%. And that's going to pull their rank down really far, you know? So for me as a reader, I go into every review that I see and I take it with a grain of salt. I look at every star rating and I really am kind of objective about it. And I don't let that change my mind. If I read the back of a book and it sounds good, I read it. It's just not that deep. And we don't have to argue over this stuff, right? We can come together as a bookish community, love one another, and have open conversations about these things. And I think that's what's important. So those are my 2 cents about it. I'd like to know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you think that Goodreads is just for authors, which nobody does, but if you think that Goodreads is just for readers, feel free to put that in the comment section. I mean, that's why I leave my comment section completely open. I like it to be a place for us to have discussions, and we can have open, intellectual, kind, respectful conversations without being cruel to one another. I'm also going to link Cam's video. I think it's very, very important, so please go check it out. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.